Hello, everybody. Welcome to the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Kyle Kraus, Kyle JCRB, whatever you want to call me. And I'm here with my good buddy, my cohort at arms, the man of the hour, Ian Flynn. Hello, Ian. The Bumble King.
Hello, Kyle.
The Bumble King is here. The Bumble King, he's here. He's still got the K in his name, even though I don't know if that's allowed. Because we're now the BumbleKast instead of the BumbleKast, so
yeah,
it's a lot of weirdness going on.
I mean, you guys who follow the show, you know what happened. We were canceled.
If you heard
last episode,
yeah. If you heard the last episode, yeah.
But screw it. We know where the loyalty lies. It's with you guys, and you are with us. So, welcome to Pirate BumbleKast.
Yes.
Legally distinct enough BumbleKast. I am currently talking to my lawyer about the Bumble King being a K thing. With the C, it doesn't make much sense. Although, arguably, cast with a K doesn't make sense. Whatever. We're just going to plow ahead. We're going to steal all the viewership from those old stinky BumbleKast. And people will be like, what BumbleKast? I only listen to BumbleKast. Revenge will be sweet.
Yes. You are a pirate. Yar.
No.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh dear, your delirium is setting in already.
It is. I've been sick. The last week has taken its toll on me. I've been pretty sick, so my voice sounds, I don't know, weird. That's my voice always sounds kind of weird, but now it sounds weirder than usual. So here we are.
I think it's got a kind of silky baritone, suitable for the airwaves.
Yeah. Well, if I make any weird human noises like coughing or any sort of hawking up loogies in the background while Ian's talking, just ignore that. We'll see.
If the show does go live, you know Kyle survived the recording.
Yes. I know, I'll be fine. It's just been like this. I'm on the upswing path, but it's still at that point where it's like in my throat and it's like just it's all that just crap. It's just hanging on. It's the end point where it's just hanging on, and it's like, come on, just go away already. Come on, just get out of here.
You're not impressing anyone. Just die.
No, just leave. Yeah, so. All right. Well, we've got, because it's the first of the year, it's the first episode of 2020. We are officially in the year 2020. It's the future. The future is now. The future is now. We are in the year 2020. We have made it, and so we're doing a giant Q&A episode.
Because if we're going to steal viewers from that treacherous BumbleKast, we need to give the people what they want. And what they want is my opinion.
Yeah, apparently. Or they want their questions answered about things that happened or did not happen. That might be true in some of these cases. I don't know, Ian, but anyway. You want to go over how to ask your questions and some of the rules?
Absolutely. If you want to ask us anything on the show, email us at BumbleCast@yahoo.com, tweet to us at BumbleCast on Twitter, or if you're a patron, post pretty much anywhere on the Patreon page or in the Q&A channel on our Discord. A few ground rules going in, just because it's been so long and some of these questions are amassing. If the question has already been answered on the FAQ that you can find on BumbleKing.com, if it has been answered in a recent BumbleKast, where we have all the questions listed in every video that we do, or if it's stuff about material that wasn't used in the old Archie Sonic that I will be covering eventually in Lost Hedgehog Tales, they're not being answered. We have answered them, or I can't answer them, and we've done a lot of these episodes where the answer is no answer. So we've put as much info out there as we can. Need you guys to do a little bit on your part, and we'll answer all the rest. If you have a deeply burning question that you absolutely want answered, or if you just want to support us, you can become a $5 patron, or you can send $5 to us via Ko-fi. That's ko-fi.com/BumbleCast. Answer your question, and you will be put to the head of the line with our priority Q&A.
Alrighty. Well, let's go ahead and get started with the priority Q&A this week. It's a whole bunch
we got a bunch this time.
It's a whole bunch of patron questions. Basically, I took everyone for these big giant Q&A episodes. I'm taking everybody who is a patron and bringing a question from them forward for these giant episodes. So, pretty much everybody regardless of your support level, will get a question answered this episode. So that's what I'm doing for these big giant Q&A fests. I don't know if that's okay, Ian.
It absolutely is. They show us their love and their support and their loyalty. Not to that BumbleKast, but to the BumbleKast. Thank you very much.
Correct.
We absolutely should reward their patronage.
Alrighty. Well, first up, we got one from Andrew D. If the stars aligned and Archie Sonic returned, would the Metal Virus saga get scrapped from the plans? Are there any other stories we've seen in IDW Sonic thus far that were originally planned for either Volume 1 or 2 or of Archie Sonic like the Metal Virus saga was? Obviously, I can't ask what is to come because of spoilers, but I'm curious if you're planning on reusing anything down the line.
Number one, do not hold out hope that Archie Sonic's coming back. It's done. The amount of hurdles it would have to clear to even be on the table is monstrous. And quite honestly, I can't see the stories we were telling then working in the climate that we have now. There were just different circumstances. That being said, in Magical Land where it happened, probably would just completely scrap the original plans and do something different. Just because I feel like the Archie Sonic version of Metal Virus would certainly be a very different story, but the core themes, the core feeling would be way too similar to what IDW Sonic has done. And I just feel like it would be too much of a retread thematically. They would be different stories, different beats, different progression, but it would feel kind of like we've done this already. So, yeah, I would most likely do something new with it. In terms of scrapped ideas, probably not. There are a lot of unused story ideas that just wouldn't work in the IDW Sonic setting. One of the things I was aiming for with Volume 2 going forward was I wanted to do a lot of Freedom Fighter focused stories. There's going to be a Sonic Universe arc that more or less was the launching point for each of the characters to get their own story arc that would feature in-universe and in the backups for regular Sonic. And Antoine's story was built all around his family and his history, so he's not in IDW Sonic. That story can't be told. Rotor's was all about his morality and how he played into things, and without Rotor, can't really do that. Sally, and the only one that would really possibly work was Bunny's, because it was more about her heroism in a certain circumstance that was tied to her personal story, but was more independent of it. And because of that, I could maybe potentially recycle some of the ideas, but that would require, a new pass at the ideas. It would require Sega to approve those ideas, and yada, 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 yada. So there's maybe one or two ideas that could be scrubbed up and reconfigured, but most everything was tied to the universe and the characters that it came from. And without those, the stories just don't work.
Okay, this next question is when it was sent to us, it was a very long question. We've kind of condensed it a bit, but don't worry, we've seen the whole thing, so we know what you said in full, but we can't really read an essay online. So this one comes from Zastando27, a.k.a. Tyler Renee M. You've done some writing when it came to the Sonic Boom TV show, right? If so, I'd see you as a source of credibility regarding this topic. Did the episode Too Good to Be True introduce the idea of the multi-world theory?
Number one, yes, I did write for Season 2 of Sonic Boom. You can see my full portfolio over at bumbleking.com. Number two, I was not one of the main writing staff. I was not privy to the whole plan for Season 2. So it's not like I had any kind of special insight into the inner workings of it. I submitted my 2 scripts. They were edited by the central team, and what you saw was the final result. I actually didn't see some of the edits before they went to animation, which is fine because, first time TV gig. I was learning the ropes, so they could do what they wanted with it. I was just happy to write for the show. But looking at the full question that Zastando27 asked, the episode in question and the lines quoted in the question in the full version, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's clear that Tales is establishing the idea of the multiverse. Now, if you're asking, does this tie into any other Sonic-related multiverse? I don't think so. I am fairly confident, 99% confident, that Sonic Boom's multiverse is exclusive to itself. It's different versions of Eggman, it's different versions of Sonic and the Gang. That's its own thing. It does not cross over with old Archie Sonic multiverse, which does not cross over with Sega canon multiverse. So just imagine it as a bunch of different pot pies all sit on the table, full of good things, but they don't technically intermingle.
Until you start stabbing them with forks, and then mixing them all together, and dumping them all
madman.
out.
No.
dumping them all over the table.
No!
Yes.
Not the pot pie Mandela effect!
I had my own Mandela effect thing recently, and now I forget what it was. Where I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it was like that. I forgot. That is the correct response, by the way, when something Mandela affects you. It's like, oh yeah, I guess it was that way, huh? I forgot. Not, oh god, I've been transported to a different multiverse, different universe.
Where's your sense of adventure, man? Some of us need that spice.
I guess. Have fun with it, but man, you guys, that's weird. That's so weird. It's always been Berenstain, by the way. All right. Let's get into this next question from Diane W. In the Archie Sonic reboot, if Bunny was raised by Rosie, why does she have a southern accent? And what happened to Sally's mother in the same reboot?
She held on to the accent to hold on to what little connection she had to her past. I think that was the hand-wavy answer I gave back in the day.
Yeah.
As for Queen Acorn, I think we just had her die off camera in the backstory. It's been a while. But I think we just did that, one, for simplicity's sake, because in Volume 1, as Sally's family expanded, things became more convoluted than necessary. The family didn't do a lot for Sally's character, try as I might. The big thing about Sad AM was Sally looking for her father, and I feel like adding to the family diluted that. So
yeah, it did.
Volume 2, the focus was supposed to be on her and on, oh shoot, what did we have? Nigel. Did we have it as Nigel? No. Yes? Nigel Acorn? I think it was Nigel Acorn.
I don't remember. Anyway, go ahead.
It's been so long now.
It has, yeah.
But yeah, I think that, and when reinventing family members, since so many were legally dicey, we needed to do something distinct if we introduced anybody new. So there wasn't a ton with Alicia Acorn, so she was pretty much a blank template, and you could construe anything off of that for any kind of Queen 2.0. So I think we probably just had her tragically pass on off screen, and that was just part of Sally's backstory, which probably would have gotten into had we been given time. But Irville.
This one comes from Dwizdizdin. Do you think Amy's Pico Pico hammer was a byproduct of the wish she made on Sonic's 1 billionth power ring? I know this is just a fan idea in the form of a question, but there was never any reasoning behind why she had it one day. Sorry if I broke the rules or asked an already answered question. Love you guys.
Here's the thing. Now that you've asked that, I know I've heard that before, and I don't know if that was one of my headcanon things that I trotted out there on the forums way back in the day, or if that was somebody else's fan idea that I just happened to remember, and now I can't attribute it properly. But this is why I am so hard and fast on the don't send me fan ideas, because here's a prime example. I don't know where that idea originally came from. I kind of feel like that's something I would have come up with, but it also sounds like something that someone else would have come up with, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Maybe I should try to incorporate that somewhere. So don't ask me fan ideas. Or send me fan ideas, because I don't want to accidentally absorb them like some giant hairy amoeba.
Yeah, well, this is not really relevant anymore, though, Ian. So.
Yeah, this is safe because that's all dead and buried. It's well without my reach. It's fine. But
right.
I honestly don't remember what my connection to that answer came from. So, I don't know. I like that idea. Yeah. Whether it was something I put out there at some point or it's somebody else's headcanon, I like it. It makes enough sense, and it uses the material that's there when a whole lot of it was just kind of throw stuff at the wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on back then. And a lot of it stuck that probably shouldn't have. Anyway, next question comes from Mike B. Seeing as how a certain cat and his frog will be making their comic debut in the 2020 Sonic Annual, did Sega not allow him to be in the comics up until now?
No, and actually that's a failure on my part, because what I wanted to do from the very, very beginning was have Big in the background as some kind of cameo in every issue from number 1. Nothing big, nothing fun, overt, just, funny little background stuff, because one of my favorite things from Sonic and the Secret Rings and from the original SA2 was finding Big just somewhere in the level. It didn't make any sense, and he's just out on this wild adventure that you don't see, and I find that hilarious. So I wanted that to be part of the series, but in the mad rush to get the first 4 issues out in their debut month, it fell by the wayside. It was a detail that I missed, and if you can't do it there, it kind of loses the point for the rest of the year, But some mistakes can be corrected given enough time, so we'll see what I can do with that.
I like the idea that Big the Cat is the G-Man of the Sonic universe. I like that idea. Is that a fan idea? Can I submit that?
Wake up, Mr. Sonic. Wake up and smell the ashes. One wrong frog in the right place can make all the difference in the world.
It's beautiful. It's perfect. Oh, man.
Oh, Lordy.
Maybe the G-Man just takes the form of Big the Cat in the Sonic universe. Which is even sillier. It's great. Yeah, man. That is great. You're welcome. Have a fan idea. You can have that one for free. All right. Next question comes from Koopaling Crew 64. Will we get to see more of Sheep Girl in the future? More than just her background cameo appearance so far? Like a name and talking with the main cast? And on the thought of Sonic background characters, have you ever thought of having some of them be based on fictitious species like dragons and tanukis? Or do you prefer to stick with just basing them on realistic species?
So, number 1, Sheep Girl was designed by Adam Bryce Thomas, who is an absolute dynamo artist, which is why we're working together on our own original comic series, Drogoon. Check it out at drogoon.com.
Oh.
He kind of unofficially named her Lanolin, and he's popped her into the background here and there unscripted, which is perfectly fine by me. I don't know if she will get more exposure because any new character has to be approved by Sega. And I worry that trying to introduce her at this point would feel like we had stealthed a character in that might not go over well with the team in Japan. I don't know. That, and it's kind of like Adam's personal Easter egg in a way, so I don't want to rain on his parade. It's kind of fun just having her show up and it's like, hey, it's her. So I don't know. We'll see. Again, the book is super young. There's tons of ways this can go. There's lots of directions, stories to be told. We got a lot of potential here.
Yeah, it's like Jen Hernandez sneaking her characters into the background too.
Yeah.
It's a nice Easter egg just for fun.
I mean, if you know her stuff and you know her characters, like, hey, there they are. And if you don't, it's just they look like regular Sonic characters.
Pretty much, yeah.
No big deal. As for mythical creatures, I prefer not to unless they are going to serve a special purpose. This could have been turned on its head because there was some design art that came out a while ago for Sonic Forces that showed a bunch of different species that were considered for the Avatar, and dragon was one of them. And it seemed to actually share a little bit of the traits of the dragon animal you could pick up in SA2, if I remember correctly. So, the possibilities from that alone were just mind-boggling, but it didn't make the cut, so it's not canon, so I'm safe from that. But I feel like if we're going to do something special like a tanuki or a dragon or a unicorn or a phoenix or yada, 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 it needs to serve a purpose because that's a special, unique species. Let's actually do something with it instead of just plop it out there and make it mundane. It's kind of like the problem with Dulcie in Volume 1 is dragons were supposed to be these incredibly powerful creatures, but they never really had any presence. They had all these mystical things tossed onto them as the story required, and then they were forgotten or never really utilized, so they were just kind of there. And then for the reboot, I wanted Dulcie to be more accessible as a character. In Volume 1, she was this giant kangaroo lizard thing that was overpowered and didn't fit with the aesthetic of anything, and she didn't really mesh with the world. Same thing in Sad AM. She just kind of was there. It was hard to write around her. So in Volume 2, I wanted to dial that back and make her a more accessible character so it made sense that she could go on adventures with Sonic and be part of the greater universe. So in that regard, I toned her down to make her more mundane and dragons in general, just so they would fit within that version of the Sonic universe. But now that we have IDW Sonic, which is its own thing and is, based more on the games, we don't really have to be beholden to other stuff and make it fit into the mold. So if we were to do dragons, I would want them to be special.
All right, next question comes from Dimensional Duellatrix Draco. Question about the Sonic IDW to Ian and Kyle. Are the Zombots weak or afraid of fire or heat? I've been keeping up with this comic series and still haven't seen Blaze for a while, which is understandable since she's got her own world to look after. But if she was present during the whole Zombot infection, since she has pyrokinetic powers, does that grant her an immunity from the metal virus? Like, can she burn the infection away if a Zombot were to touch her? Or would she be a goner like the others? Basing this on how fire melts metal.
Funny you should ask that. When we were developing the Metal Virus saga, it was in pre-production as we were wrapping up the Neo Metal Sonic storyline. And early drafts had Blaze stick around and be part of the storyline. And one of the aspects was that, yes, her fire could melt down the Zombots, but it looked like it would be potentially destroying them. The Zombots are already super hardy, but it looked like she might have the power to destroy them, but it would be killing the victims at the same time. And Blaze would not want to go that far. It was supposed to be this kind of crisis of conscience type of thing. And during development, we decided, that's kind of dark. We're already getting really dark with this story. That's a bridge too far. And then it became a question of, well, if we don't take it to the logical extension, but she's around, we're just kind of wasting her character and dancing around an obvious plot point. So that's why she goes back to her own dimension at the end of season 1, just so we didn't have to dance around that topic. Blaze will still play a role in the story before it's over, but she will not be put in that horrible position. Everyone else, sure, horrible positions, but not Blaze. She manages to squeak by thanks to discussion and revision.
It's not
and before anyone sends this question, no, there are no scripts. No, there are no detailed story notes that were never used. This was something that was in early pre-production and discussion that never made it past the initial editorial stage. There's no lost script. There is no last-minute revisions. That was just an idea that didn't happen.
It's Blaze. She must be protected at all costs. Don't do this to her, Ian.
No one is safe. No one is sacred.
All right, next question comes from Ian Waffles. Ian, sometimes an author, has a specific message or a theme they're trying to convey, while other times they simply want to explore an idea with no clear answer. The current Zombot arc of the Sonic series seems to bring up the idea of mercy a lot in regards to Sonic's choice to spare Mr. Tinker. Is this an idea you hope to give a concrete answer to by the end of the story, or is it something you want to keep vague and left up to the reader? I'm not asking for spoilers, as far as I know, just confirmation of the intentions behind bringing up this theme.
Good catch, Ian Waffles. Yes, there is a very broad question being posed here. What are the limits of mercy? Should Sonic have been harsher towards Mr. Tinker? Was Mr. Tinker actually innocent despite all that Dr. Eggman had done? Was Sonic right morally? Is the moral right worth adhering to if it becomes such a hard thing to maintain? There's a lot of questions to be spun out of it, and there is no concrete answer. I have my personal viewpoint on it, but there is certainly a great deal of debate to be had, and I've seen it around online. People you're going back and forth on who was right, who was wrong. Unfortunately, a lot of that discussion that I've seen boils down to black and white. Yes, this is right. No, that is wrong. And I think it is a very gray area, and it's not a easy question to answer. And I don't think there is a singular right answer that would fit every scenario.
Right.
So I'm not saying that the entire arc is constructed as this deep philosophical exploration of the question, but the question is laid out in the story, and each of the characters kind of approach it in their own way. But I'm leaving it mostly to the reader to decide, what do they think? The characters themselves are not meant to be straw men for any particular position. It's just how that character would respond to that scenario. And it's not to vilify or put any of them on a pedestal. None of the characters are, meant to be the voice of reason or the right one. You're meant to read it and go, what do I think about it? Who do I agree with, and why? So, yes, there is a question. There is a purpose. No, there's not an answer except for the one that you choose for yourself.
All right, next question comes from our good buddy, the Scruffy Matt. With Star Wars Episode 9 being described as the end of the Skywalker saga, what would you like to see next from the franchise? Are there any particular characters or eras of the Star Wars series you'd like to see further explored? I'd quite like to find out more about what happened to Darth Maul in between the Clone Wars and Rebels, but with an Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan Disney Plus series in the works, I'd say there's a good chance we may get that anyway. Maybe what we really need is a movie explaining who the poodoo this Snoke guy was. Who cares about Snoke? He's a bunch of clones.
Here's the thing. I liked Snoke when he had the mystery about him and the presentation he had.
Yeah, but once we figured out who he was, we realized,
I'm highly entertained that, I'm thinking, okay, this is kind of an acceptable Palpatine light. And, Dr. Diet Pepper Palpatine. And then the next movie says, yeah, that's exactly what it is. This is the RC Colas of Palpatines. And it's like, okay, that just makes me like him more, because if one of them got out of the vat, you've got a force powerful, designed to be evil dude who could go in a number of directions. I don't know. If you need a villainous force, disposable clones of Sithy power guy, that could work. It could be fun.
You could make that work, sure.
I can't remember what they were called, but it was a whole group of dark Jedi, or whatever you want to call them, force-sensitive folks that worked under Vader. The Enforcers, the Inquisitors. They went by the names like...
I know who you're talking about, but yeah, I can't remember. Inquisitors, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I thought they were a cool idea. I was especially impressed with what little story arc we got to, what was his name? Brother number 1 or something in Rebels, who dies and then kind of comes back as a light side Force ghost. And it's like, ooh, did he find redemption in the Force? Could the others? Are there others out there? That could be neat. Do they have any connection to the Knights of Ren? Are they kind of like parallel organizations? Are they kind of redundant? Is there a rivalry between them? That could be cool. Finn and Jaina. That was one of the most interesting plot threads. Sorry? Jana, excuse me. Lee is yelling corrections from across the room. Finn and Jana's little plot thread that was dangled before us like so many others was one of the most engaging things for me. I want to see Finn going out there and recruiting fellow child conscripts and, I don't know, making his own good army of stormtrooper...
Ex-stormtroopers.
The final order's kind of destroyed, but maybe he's helping them put the pieces back together again. They're directionless without their evil empire. Maybe he's trying to stop them from going down a bad path. That would be really cool. There's lots of fun ideas that aren't followed up at or thought through fully.
Here's what I want from Star Wars, from the Star Wars franchise. Nothing! Just stop! Just stop! Please! Just stop!
Now, okay, so have you seen The Mandalorian?
Not entirely. I don't want them to necessarily stop, and I have not, no. Okay.
I didn't want to buy into the hype because everyone was going, oh, it's so great. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Lowest common denominator show, sure.
Baby Yoda makes me want to watch it less.
No, dude. It's actually good. It lives up to the hype. I haven't seen the whole 8 episodes, but what I have seen rekindled the excitement I had for Star Wars back when I was a wee bairn. Like, this is the level of hype I felt back when Phantom Menace was just trailers. It plays with the material. It does stuff with it that's like, okay, we're using the universe and playing with all the toys rather than trying these half-assed stabs in the dark to progress it in ways that aren't satisfying. It's really pretty neat. I like it a lot. And there's talk of Rebels getting a sequel series. And while it wasn't the best show in the world, I was entertained by it, and the way that they represented Grand Admiral Thrawn made me smile from ear to ear, so I kind of want to see that come back. So maybe instead of what comes next, let's look at just expanding and playing with the universe as it is. Take all these threads that were not utilized well and do something with them.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe get rid of some Jedi stuff. Just don't focus on Jedi stuff so much. I don't know. It just feels like it's always like, here's a Jedi. Just pulling a Jedi out. Like, come on. Stop. We don't need Jedi everywhere. I know this is Star Wars, but let's do something else.
That's one of my favorite bits from Rebels, where the Jedi master character, who has been in hiding all this time and has pretty much renounced the Force until he finds his Padawan. He's kind of like the blind leading the blind. He wasn't a great Jedi to begin with. He's really out of practice, but he's like the only option this kid has. So they end up going to this Jedi temple, and he sends his Padawan in alone to do the training. And the Padawan says, "What'll I find in there?" "Only what you take with you." "What does that mean?" "I don't know." And it just kind of turned the whole mysticism thing on its head a bit. And I enjoyed that.
That does sound pretty cool. Like, okay, here's this Jedi, but he's like a completely, like he's just not good at being a Jedi. Yeah, I kind of like that idea.
And once he kind of gets back into the groove, he has a complete arc for himself. So, I don't know. Rebels is worth a watch. It takes a little while to find its footing, but the characters are fun. And its high moments are really high, and its low moments are still okay.
I've heard Rebels is good, and I've heard Mandalorian is good. I've heard that, from what I've heard, this new Disney Star Wars, the new Disney Star Wars stuff tends to hold up better in TV series form rather than the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm kind of vaguely interested, but I'm like, I don't know. So we'll see. But I've thrown more shows on the pile just when I need more stuff to have to eventually get to. All right.
And Baby Yoda is not like crammed down your throat. Baby Yoda is a cute plot device, but does not overstay its welcome.
All right. Let's go ahead and get into the next question here. This one comes from TV Guru. The official Sonic Twitter once announced issue 1, but after that, nothing. Not even a meme. Do you think he can nudge someone, or Aaron himself, to at least promote the comic once a month? That's a pool of 5.8 million fans not being tapped. This is an official product, after all.
Have you not been watching the bi-weekly live streams they were doing? Mike Sismer, the head of marketing, would come and like personally show off the variant covers and stuff. They've had me on the show a couple times to promote the book in person and showed off the Tangle and Whisper Pins. Yeah, it would be neat to have some acknowledgement on the Twitter feed, but there might be reasons they don't. I don't know. But Sega Amira folks have shown the comic much love. They are a great group of folks, and I'm very happy to be on board with them. So, no, it's all good. It's all good.
Next question comes from PC the Unicorn. Will it ever be shown how the event of some of the Sonic video games differs within the comic compared to how they actually ended?
Probably not. Sega of Japan is very, very much against us referencing game events. Ones that you have seen are kind of ones we have fought for or finagled our way in.
That is very weird, but okay.
A major case in point, Sonic number 1 was supposed to end with Tails having a flashback to Infinite beating the ever-loving snot out of Sonic. That's why Tails is so hesitant to let Sonic run off on his own at the end of the issue. And Sega says, don't reference that at all. And I'm like, okay. So we're going to convey that in the art, and since it came out so close to the game, I'm hoping the fans will get the context. And looking at feedback online, it was maybe 50-50 that they did. But no, the comic has pretty much got to be its own thing. So that's why it's not a continuation of the games. It's just kind of based off of them.
And our final priority Q&A question this week comes from Brody M. How would you have tied in with the recent Sonic games, such as Sonic Forces, in the Archie Sonic the Hedgehog comic series? And when will Sega announce their plans for the franchise's 30th anniversary? Come on, Ian, don't you know? This is me. I'm saying this, not Brody. It's like, come on, Ian, don't you know what Sega's top secret plans are? And can't you tell them to us right now? Come on, do it.
I had this Archie Sonic continued into Forces. We probably would have done... Oh, shoot. Let me think. We probably wouldn't have been able to do a full adaptation. At the way we had been approaching it at the time was that getting things approved was so difficult that we did the Another Time, Another Place backup stories so that we could do the tie-in for the cover promotional and we wouldn't be hamstrung with the continuity. So it probably would have been a 5-page backup that either just redid the intro sequence or did some kind of light retelling of the opening. And then we probably wouldn't have been able to touch Infinite or any of the story material for another 2 years. That's just going by how all the other game adaptations went under my tenure. So that's probably how it would have gone. It may have been very different. I don't know. It's really hard to say, because of all the factors. As for what Sega has planned, I don't know. I'm freelance for the tie-in comic.
Do you know when? Do you know when they'll announce them?
I have no idea what their timetable is.
Oh, darn.
I know of some other projects that are in development, but even if I had an exact timetable, I would not be able to talk about it. Sagata Senshiro himself would come in and break my kneecaps. I can't talk about that kind of stuff.
Sagata Senshiro gave his life for us, Ian. Do not take his name in vain.
Oh, he's immortal and you know it.
Okay, that's a good point. I really
You think death could stop Sagata Shinshiro?
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, okay, fine. You win.
The only reason he stays in the afterlife is he wanted a break. And then when he got tired of it, he just kicked down reality and come walking on back.
That sounds like him, all right. I was going to say Forces. It's kind of like a half-baked Diet Coke version of Archie Sonic anyway.
Yeah, and my timing on it might be wrong. But if Forces came out around 300-ish, it would have been really bad timing because 300 was going to be a big triumphant issue for the heroes. And Forces is all about Eggman winning, so I'm not really sure how that would have been reconciled. But maybe Forces came out later than that.
I think it was about that time.
Yeah. Oh, man, dodge that bullet.
Yeah. This would have been when did Forces come out? 2017? 2016? 2017.
Yeah, it would have been about the same time.
About the same time.
Man, that would have been a nightmare.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the book being canceled was any less of a nightmare, but
yeah, that's silly. All right, well, we've got the priority Q&A wrapped up. Let's get into the standard Q&A. This one comes from Pero F. I noticed that in issue 3, Rough and Tumble seemed to be drinking what looked like beer, going by the color of the liquid and the typical-looking beer glasses that one citizen spilled in front of them, and the one Tumble knocks off the table. I remember you previously said that they don't have official ages yet, but if that's exactly what they were drinking, would you say Rough and Tumble are of the legal age of drinking? Or was it ultimately just something Jennifer Hernandez added when they were doing the artwork for that issue?
I don't remember exactly what the script called for in terms of drinks, but it was supposed to be something along that line. And really, Rough and Tumble, even if they are underage, they don't care.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They're Rough and Tumble. They would probably do underage drinking just because it was illegal, because that would make them look tough.
What is the legal drinking age in Sonic's world?
I don't know. Age means nothing.
I was going to say, yeah, like, when has age actually meant
sure
anything?
That, at least script-wise, it would have been left up to interpretation to say, oh no, it's actually root beer, or something like that, because people get hung up over the silliest thing. But no, they don't have official ages that I'm aware of, unless Sega has changed that. And it doesn't matter because they are scum.
Yeah, they drink regardless. They drink if they were 5 years old.
Maybe they did, and that explains some things.
That would make sense. Next question comes from Liam B. Lawsuit aside, the early era of the Archie Sonic comic was known for its extreme melodrama. Was this something you deliberately tried to avoid in your approach to the comics?
Yes, that was a major complaint in the fandom back when I first got on board. Too much melodrama, not enough action. So, howdy, did I plug in the action?
And we can all be thankful that you did that. Because it got really tiring.
The battle cry quickly changed to, it's too much action, there needs to be more melodrama. And so, all right, well, here's some character interaction and some drama.
You got to balance it out.
Nobody's happy.
You can't have too much of one or the other, but yeah, and it is hard to satisfy everybody. But I feel like he did a pretty good job, so I'm okay with it. All right, next question comes from Slashy. If the two worlds are as disconnected as you say they are, then why is it that we never see Sonic encounter humans that are shocked about his appearance? Even when he goes out to areas far away from society, humans still find his appearance normal.
The explanation is it is an ill-thought-out and poorly executed plot point.
Yes, that is it.
Not to bite the hand that feeds, but let's call a spade a spade. the Two Worlds idea, which as far as I know was constructed by Yuji Naka before his departure, was not well executed in the games, and it continues to be a bit of a blight. But it is what it is, and I have to work with it. Now, if you really, really want to have a headcanon-y answer, assume that something along the lines of Sonic X Season 1 happened leading up to the events of Sonic Adventure, and from there, Sonic and his fuzzy buddies were kind of worldwide celebrities just from their heroism. That's about the best I can conjure for you.
Sure, we'll go with that. Yeah, I've always found the Two Worlds thing to be just like, what? What are you talking about? Stop. Yeah, silly, very silly. Very silly. Next question comes from TBF. Ian, what inspired you, or why did you become a writer, and how much do you enjoy it?
I've always been a storyteller. I've found, scribbles from when I was a toddler, and I remember that they were supposed to be comics, that there was supposed to be a story told here. There's nothing but madness scrawled on the paper, but I remember there was a point to it at some juncture. And I've just always enjoyed it. I've entertained friends and family with it for, as long as I can remember. My dad did a fair bit of writing, and that inspired me a fair bit it's like, hey, my dad can write things. He's just dad. If dad can write things, that means anyone can write things. I am anybody. I will do that. And he let me, goof around on his old word processor and waste God only knows how much paper with his old electric typewriter. And then I, figured, all right, well, I like English class. Let's continue that into college. And then, at some point freshman year, it hit me. Once this is done, I have to be out in the world for realsies. I have to do something. I have to be able to feed myself. Oh, God, what do I do with my extreme lack of talent? It's like, well, I can write. Maybe I can write things for a living. And heaven help me, I've actually managed to get by on that for my entire career. So, I've worked other jobs on the side, and all you lovely patrons who support the BumbleKast, you help out as well. But most of my bread and butter has come from writing, and I am extremely thankful for that. Because I love to write. I love to write dialogue. I love to theory craft and lore craft and just write, whether it's actually putting it on the page or just going out on the porch and zoning out for hours on end, plotting things out, and then promptly forgetting them and being angry I didn't take the computer with me. But that's besides the point. Even when I'm working on an assignment that isn't necessarily my favorite thing, it's still fun to do. It's still a challenge of some kind, and my work is my favorite hobby. So it never really feels completely like work, It's a very, honestly, privileged life, and I hope to hold on to it as long as I can.
Next question comes from James M. Kyle and Ian, have you read any Sonic fanfiction online, and which fanfic is your favorite? I haven't read fanfiction in about 20 years, Sonic fanfiction at least. And as far as favorite stories, I have no clue, because I don't remember any of them from like 20 years ago. I was a kid. Come on, I can't remember these things.
I haven't come anywhere near fan fiction for legal reasons for years. I do remember dabbling in it way, way back in the day in like middle school.
Uh-huh.
And nothing immediately springs to mind because it's been a long time, and that period of my life is so full of cringe I don't want to look too hard at it. I think I speak for everyone when I say that. But that's not to say anything bad about fan fiction. It's an excellent exercise for someone who wants to write. I think it gets a bad rap because there is a lot of bad fan fiction out there, but if you don't take it too seriously, it's fine. It's a great learning tool. You have your themes and your plot lines and your characters already developed for you, so you're learning how to put those pieces together without starting from scratch. And from there, you see what works, what doesn't, where you would want to change things. And by writing and building and revising and taking things in a new direction, you eventually begin to develop your own stuff, and you're writing for realsies on your own with your own material. So nothing bad about fanfic for its own right. I just can't come anywhere near it for legal reasons.
I feel like fanfic, in a way, is sort of its own genre of writing. Just because it's so... The approach to it is always so different from writing, other forms of storytelling. It just has its own, sets of rules, or sets of rules to break, as it were, even if you're not into rules necessarily. But it just has its own sort of thing that makes it kind of a different genre versus other forms of writing. It's a different medium, really. And so I think there's fun to be had there. I just haven't read any, especially Sonic fan fiction, in years. I don't know. I just haven't. So, but anyway, next question comes from Bowler Hat Wearer. Dear Ian, if I may ask, will other humans appear in Sonic's world in the IDW comics? Or are there other humans besides Eggman, of course, not allowed to appear? Or are other... I read that all wrong, but I think the intent came out, so I apologize. Yeah, I'm not going to read that.
You just sit down, you rest yourself.
I'm not going to read that again. Okay, go, Ian. Go.
No, there is no, barring of humans. We've just been focused on Sonic's world from the get-go, just for simplicity's sake. And again, we're on our second storyline for the comic. We have loads of room to expand and explore. So I'm sure we'll get to the human world eventually.
All right, next question comes from Thanatos Zero. In the Mega Man Archie issue 49, 8 of 16 Wily robots chose to cease their functioning due to their nature as tools of war. What if Dr. Light told them that Wily initially desired robots to also become heroes instead of mere tools, as in Mega Man 11? Would it change their mind?
From the heartless exterior of plotting, no, because those robots were meant to go offline so that they could show up in the Robot Museum when we eventually got to Mega Man 7?
Yeah, it's 7. Yep.
Or am I thinking Rockman and Base?
No, it's 7.
Is it 7? Okay.
Yes.
So, yeah, it was... Their decision was very much plot-driven, and that was not going to change. Kudos to you for wanting to find a way to rescue them, but that was kind of a preordained thing happening. The trick was finding a way to make those 8 come to that conclusion while the others did not. The idea being the ones that remained active would become part of the supporting cast, and we would see more robot masters running around because that's what people wanted. But then the book got canceled. Put on hiatus. Indefinite, extended hiatus.
Yeah, we know what that means. No need to sugarcoat it.
The official word is it is not officially canceled. So I'm holding out hope because... Man, I want that to come back. That was such a fun book.
It is such a good book. I miss it so much. It's my favorite. It's my favorite thing you've done. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's a work of art. It's 52 individual works of art, actually. Next question comes from Digama F. Wow. One practice the Archie comic got up to back in the old days was occasionally letting some scripts, occasionally already fully drawn as well, hang out in the metaphorical vault for a while and dusting them off years after they were written. The final years of this happening appear to be from 2006 to 2008, aka the early days of your run. However, there's another story you wrote that I think may be an example, but I'm not sure. I want you to verify. For a Friend, the backup story to issue 169, where SPO tries to find the location of Charmy's people and ends up blowing up an Eggman base. Writing-wise, there's nothing to it that indicates, this is something early that didn't get published till later, But the art team has one specific name that makes me pause. The inker and letter on that story was none other than old Ken Penders. Was this one of the earliest stories you wrote that it had done before Ken Vamoosed, and you got put in as the main writer of the book?
I honestly don't remember, because that's so far back. I didn't really do a lot of inventory stories, because at that point there was actually a backlog that I can't even get into that. Suffice to say, there was some stuff that was on file that eventually just got trashed for the greater good. Oh man, the stories I could tell, but really, really, really can't. Anyway, actually, that does remind me, though. I did come across an inventory story that I did do that was supposed to be drawn by the Patrick Spaziante that never saw the light of day. And as far as my records show, I never actually got paid for.
Uh-oh.
So the scripts are mine. So I can publish them in full, and I will be putting that as a small Lost Hedgehogs update eventually. I gotta get other stuff done first, but there is content coming, guys. I promise you, it's not what you want, but it's a small thing. I'm doing what I can. Anyway, that wasn't your question. Your question was the SBS story. It was very early on, and given how fast I work, I probably had it done early-ish, but the timeline for when it would have been conceptualized and written, and when that individual did his own thing, isn't matching up in my head, so I'm not sure, honestly, how it worked out. But that was also like 12 years ago. So.
Yeah, it's been a while. All right, next question comes from Almiron R. Are there any chances that the IDW Sonic series will introduce more aliens?
It's a possibility. In my mindset, it's what purpose would these aliens serve?
Do aliens need to serve a purpose, Ian? They're just here to probe.
As corny as they were, I really liked the Black Arms as an alternative to Eggman. But I'm pretty sure they are considered dead, so that's off the table. And I dig the Wisps. I think they're fun, and I like them as like little dudes hanging around. But they aren't really major plot elements. They're more of a kind of fun just to have around. They're a nice gimmick for Whisper. There isn't a ton more to do with them. So if IDW Sonic does bring in more aliens, it's a question of what do they do? What do they bring to the narrative that hasn't been done before? What story opportunities do they open up? What characters do they introduce? What do they do with the current cast that lets them do something fun and interesting or insightful? It's what purpose would they serve?
And this next question comes from De Big RG. Do you still have some of those script bits you never got around to posting? What kind of ideas did you have in mind for Tig Stripe?
Oh, shoot. In case you don't know, back when the Bumble King forums were still a thing, every now and again I'd put out a feature called Script Bits, which would show off some of the script material from issues that had already come out and talk about the development process and ideas that were cut and yada yada. And I don't recall any that were never completed. I think I just had to quit because it became so much work on top of everything else I was doing. I couldn't keep up with it all. I could be wrong. I don't know. Part of it too was I tried to hold off on doing them until, one, the story arc was complete, and two, it had been out for a significant amount of time. And the story arc started getting so long that the wait time became ridiculous, I think. Again, it's been a long time. As for Tig Stripe, there were no concrete plans for him. I personally was not chomping at the bit to bring him back. I just remember that the editor at the time said that there was a lot of fan art, especially from little kids coming in for him. So the idea was to bring him back because of fan demand, and I kind of went, really? Really? Okay, you're the boss. But then something happened that threw those plans off, and he never came back. And that's okay, really. It's okay.
All right. Next question comes from Homira the Best. Ian, does there exist a map of the post-reboot Archie continuity similar to that of the pre-reboot? If not, will one ever be made?
No and no. I know I dabbled with creating a Volume 2 map for a little bit, trying to reconcile the world maps presented in Shadow the Hedgehog and in Sonic Unleashed. And those files might be floating around somewhere in the hard drive or in a backup drive, but they were never officially approved. They were never implemented. I don't think they were ever really finalized on my end. And given that Archie Sonic is done and over with, there's no reason to go back to it.
Next question comes from Nextium X. Is Shadow an android in the IDW comics?
Funny you should ask.
Uh-oh.
See, I was going off of the ending to Shadow the Hedgehog, where Eggman says, during the final boss fight, his robots rescued Shadow during his fall in SA2, and that he is the one true Shadow. But notes I've received from Sega, as we've gone forward, have apparently said that the Android life version might still be on the table, ? Of course, this is also along the same lines of the notes that I've got saying that there's no such thing as money on Sonic's world, which has made for some interesting revisions with the Chaotix. So I am working under the assumption that Shadow is the Shadow. And if Sega were to take things in a different direction, I would just have to adjust my plans accordingly.
No such thing as money. So can you just say, okay, there's no money, but here's this thing that looks like money, acts like money, it can be used as money, but it's not called money, so it's okay.
In their opening cutscene, they have dollar signs in their eyes, for pity's sake.
It's just so weird. So weird. All right, next question, and the final question on this episode of the BumbleKast with a C. It comes to us courtesy of Clay A. From what I saw in the previews of Sonic the Hedgehog number 18, Gemerl has been turned into basically a generic protection robot instead of the snarky robot he was in the post-reboot. I really hope this issue surprises me, but if that's true, why was his personality changed? Also, this question is pretty old, so apologies to Clay for taking so long to get to this, but hopefully we can still kind of answer it in a post number 18 world.
So in Archie Sonic Volume 2, because Shard was off the table, I figured the next black and gold robot could kind of inherit his personality, and that's what I applied to Gemerl, which I realize probably is Gemerl, but I like Gemerl, darn it.
It's whatever.
And given his singular appearance in the games, I figured he was a blank template that I could play with.
I'm frankly surprised he's even allowed to be in the comics.
I am too. I am super excited that we've been able to utilize him. But when we did put in the story for approval, the notes from Sega came back saying he didn't speak like that he was a machine. He spoke like a robot. There's a little bit of leeway in that he's a little more personable than, say, an Egg Pawn. He certainly is more compassionate sounding than, say, Omega. But they were very, very direct with the notes on how Gemerl should be portrayed character-wise. Which, on the one hand, I do miss the snark. On the other hand, it's kind of fun to get official notes on such an obscure character.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, and that will do it for this block of Q&A, and that will wrap up this first episode of 2020 of the BumbleKast with a C.
Yes! Forget those guys with the K. Hold on. Phone's ringing. Give me a second.
Okay.
Yo! Oh! Really?
Huh?
2 shreds, you say? All right. And okay. Yeah, sure. We can adjust. We're flexible. Yeah, no, cool. Thanks. Happy New Year to you too. Okay, so the new co-hosts that they got for BumbleKast with a K were eaten by ravenous aardvarks.
Perfect.
They want us back.
That's horrible, but great. Awesome.
So
can we start now?
Yeah. Welcome back to BumbleKast with a K, baby!
Here we are, yeah! We did it! Screw those other guys. Glad they got eaten. I mean, what? Never mind. I didn't wish death on anybody. Never.
Of course not. And they certainly weren't hired by all the wonderful people like Daniel H., Eric F., Connell T., Alex P., Zastando 27, Diane W., Ian Waffles, Justin S., Andrew D., Blue Title Gamer, Coupling Crew 128, Chris A., John B., Jennifer R., Revan the Light, Lisa M., Fernando A., Frederick, Scruffy Matt, PC the Unicorn, Do As Diz Din, David M., Mike B., Samuel P., Sam Cybercat, Degama F., Wow, Brody M., Final Neil, Justin G., Dan MS, Silly String, Takaro, Lee H.K., Chevelle, Don B., Sin Fritz, John M., James K., Adam B.T., and Overthinking Films.
Yay, thank you everybody for sticking with us through this very strange time in our lives where we were the BumbleCast with a C, but now we are once again the BumbleCast with a K.
And Kyle, let's remember to remove the Patreon perk about the aardvarks. Just, cover our tracks here.
Yeah. Okay, I'll get on that.
Meanwhile, where can folks find you after the show?
You can head on over to Twitter at KyleJCRB. Where you can find me being snarky and weird about internet things. You can also head on over to kngi.org, where you can find archived episodes of the BumbleCast in MP3 downloadable format for your listening pleasure. You can also find my other show, Nitro Game Injection, which is a show all about video game music and video game music remixes, arrangements, covers, all that fun, good stuff made by fans. And that one streams live on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on KNGI's 24/7 music stream. So anytime you want to go tune in over there, you can listen to some awesome video game music remixes, and then you can tune in for a live show also featuring awesome video game music remixes on Mondays. So be sure to go check that out. Where can people find you, Ian?
Head over to Twitter at IanFlynnBKC, my website, BumbleKing.com. That's got a big old Sonic FAQ, a release schedule of all the books that are coming out, my full portfolio, announcements, all sorts of fun stuff. And as the cat knocks over my mic stand, stop it, Midna. My webcomic with Sonic artist extraordinaire Adam Bryce Thomas, Drogoon. Free updates every Friday. Patrons get a free piece of gift art at the end of every month. That's drogoon.com, DROGUNE. Or check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/Drogoon.
Don't forget, you can also check out the show on Twitter at BumbleCast, where you can get announcements of when we're doing things like live streaming or when we're doing the recording session for patrons in the Discord. You can also email us at bumblecast@yahoo.com, and you can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and YouTube. And as aforementioned, also, you can download MP3s over at kngi.org.
You can also support us by heading over to the Bumble store. That's shop.spreadshirt.com/Bumble store, where we have a number of BumbleCast-related images that you can plaster onto all sorts of goods and knickknackery.
Don't forget, you can also check out BumbleCast Gaming live streams on Twitch at twitch.tv/BumbleCastGaming on Sundays at around 10 p.m. Eastern Time usually, as well as other possible times. Keep an eye on Twitter for announcements. The end of the year has been kind of crazy for us, so we haven't really had the chance to do much streaming, but hopefully we'll be able to get back into that eventually. So be on the lookout for that stuff happening soon.
Absolutely. This is going to wrap us up for BumbleCast. BumbleCast, episode 1 of good old season 6. We'll see you in a couple weeks as this Bumble train just keeps on rolling.
Yep, we'll see you next time.
Does that make me the Bumble conductor?
Yes.
And does that mean there's a Bumble caboose?
That's me. All right, next question comes from Do As Diz Din. Do As Diz Din. Hold on a second.
Yeah, with that voice of yours, it sounds like you're a motorcycle singer.
Hold on a second. This is going to be an edit point. Let me mute the microphone real quick. Okay, that was not as productive as I'd hoped. That's okay. We'll move on.
Do you want to start the show off then to really cement the whole bootlegging feeling to it?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Welcome to the BumbleKast. I'm sick.
Oh, layers upon layers.
No,
we're not licensed illers, Valerie. We just kind of do it as a hobby.
Illin' and chillin'. I don't even know what illing is exactly.
What you're doing right now.
Oh, okay. You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org.
This is hilarious. I don't know if you've seen this YouTube channel. Are you familiar with You Suck at Cooking?
No.
Okay. Look it up because it's surrealist cooking humor at its best.
Uh-huh.
But right now, your sick Kyle voice sounds a whole lot like that guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's really entertaining. It's like, how do we keep Kyle this sick so we can piggyback off this guy's success?
No. I don't want to be this sick. Not with all the nastiness that comes with it.
How do we exploit Kyle even further?
I feel exploited. I don't feel exploited, which is funny.